Welcome to the Real Experts Podcast. I'm Brett Jennings, and for the last 15 years, I've traveled the country to meet, mentor, and mastermind with some of the brightest and best minds both inside and outside of real estate. Get ready to elevate your game as we unpack the mindset, strategies, and tactics of these elite performers achieving extraordinary results. Well, welcome to another episode of the Real Experts Podcast, where we go deep into the intersection of personal growth and business growth. And I'm super excited to be catching up with and sharing a show today with Kyle Whissel. Now, Kyle, come on, if you haven't heard of Kyle Whissel, the question is, where have you been? He is a super mega team leader out of San Diego, California, CEO of Whissel Group, which is recognized for their extremely high sales volume in the area. And not only that, but per agent productivity is one of the real metrics I look at that tells me what kind of leader we have. And so we'll talk about that. But Kyle's earned a reputation for really being an innovator in marketing, technology. Anytime I was always kind of hacking my way forward on something, I'd check in with Kyle and say, hey, Kyle, what do you know about this? And he'd always offer some great insight. But under Kyle's leadership, Whissel Realty Group's been consistently ranked as the top team in San Diego by sales volume. They've also been recognized as the number one real estate team in San Diego by the Wall Street Journal and the number 6 team in the state by Trulia and Zillow. Kyle's also a national speaker, is a major leader in what is called the fast forward movement. It's a big, giant group at EXP, and a big fan of the use of technology, including AI and automation. So Kyle, welcome to the show.
Dude, I'm excited to hang out with you. It's going to be fun today. And I'm excited we're competing with each other right now this year. This is fun, man.
Yeah, this is
We
cool.
just broke $500 million. So 10 months into the year, we broke $500 million closed sales volume. So freaking stoked, man. It's been a fun year.
That's amazing, and that growth journey is what we're here for. So I'm super stoked to have you on the show. And as we got chatted a little bit before we got started, why, if you could kind of share a little bit about your growth journey going from kind of, maybe a couple minutes on your origin story, how you got into real estate.
Yeah.
When did you really know real estate was it for you? And then I guess the third part of that would be like when you went from becoming a real estate agent to a real estate business owner.
Totally. Yeah. So growing up, I hated real estate my whole life. My dad was that dad that, was constantly in meetings on the phone. Like I just felt like real estate always took priority over me. So I resented real estate for a long time growing up. While I was in college, I was scooping popcorn at a movie theater. And my dad kept saying, you need to buy property, you need to buy a property. I said, Dad, I scoop popcorn at a movie theater. I can't buy a property. And then he was like, here, just fog this mirror. They'll give you a loan. And they did. They gave me a loan for $500,000 because we said I was a manager at the movie theater.
So this is 2006 or 5?
This was 02. 02. This was early, yeah. So they gave me a loan for $500,000 in 02. And I ended up selling that property a few months later. I netted $17,000 from that sale. And simultaneously, the movie theater had just given me a whopping nickel an hour raise. So at that point, I was like, all right, Dad, let's talk about this real estate thing. And so I joined him. I've worked under him on the commercial side of things, mostly multifamily and retail for the first 5 years or so. Eventually, I did not want to be under him anymore. And so I started also seeing on these multifamily deals, we were selling a lot of apartment buildings to people who would convert them over to condos. And that whole conversion process died in San Diego. And so all my investors stopped buying apartment buildings because they couldn't convert them anymore. And so they started buying foreclosures and short sales. And then I started to see man, this girl's got 300 short sale listings. This guy's got 300, foreclosure listings. And so that was kind of I saw my opportunity to branch off from my dad. And so I jumped into the residential side of things right in 08 is when I jumped into it, right in the height of the, subprime meltdown and all that. And so I started my own brokerage at that point. I never went to any of the franchises. I just went straight in. I was like, okay, well, my dad was the broker. And now that I'm not under him, I'm going to be the broker. And so I just went to being the broker day one in residential. And so I started out heavy on the short sale and REOs and all that fun stuff. And then I started to build a team. I think it took me 2 years before I started to build a team. I've always had an assistant since day one. Never worked a day in my life without having an assistant in real estate. And then after a couple of years, This is so bad, dude. Like you're a big lead conversion guy. So I had all these REO listings and short sale listings, and I was like, man, I can't handle all these buyers that are coming in. And so a buddy of mine owned a Coldwell, or is like a broker at a Coldwell Banker office. And I was like, dude, help. I'll just like send you the leads I get at the end of every week. And then you have all these agents, like you can give them to your agents. And if they convert anything, like just pay me a referral fee. And I would literally export leads weekly to him and
Wow.
send him over. I'm like, here you go, dude. Let me know if you convert anything. Like weekly. It was insane.
Yeah. Well,
Actually never converted anything. And so I was like, okay, that didn't work. And then I had a couple friends that were like, dude, give me the leads. I'll convert them for you. And so they joined technically under my brokerage, but like we had no systems, processes, training, nothing. And I started giving them the leads, and magically they converted nothing. And so I was like, screw this, like this is just not working. And so I was sitting around on a Black Friday one day, and computers went on sale from Dell for like $200 or $300. I don't remember what the dollar amount was. And I was like, F it, it's time to go big. Like, and I just bought 10 computers. And at this point I had a 10 by 10 office and I had 10 computers. And I was like, okay, I have computers. Now I need a bigger office. So then I leased a big office. And then I was like, okay, now I have an office and I have computers. I need people. And then I kind of went back to that same theory about how I got my first loan. And I just would put a mirror under people's nose. And if they fogged it, they were hired. And so I lost well over $100,000 that first year. That was in like 2010, I think. And so I just hired anybody and everybody at that point because I just wanted to fill the office. It was a very expensive year.
Yeah.
That was a big learning lesson, right? Like we've talked about some of the leaps. Like my leap was realizing that I can't just hire anybody. Like I had to figure out like who's the right person to hire. So a lot of people will call that like a persona or an avatar. And so once I figured that out, like we had a huge leap year because I was spending more time trying to get people to log into like their Gmail account or even remember, did they have a Gmail or a Yahoo? They couldn't even remember because I had people that were like 20 and I had people that were like 120 on my team. It was such a mess, dude.
Oh my God. Well, that is quite a journey. And as you share that, dude, I just recognize actually you and I have more in common than maybe we've talked about this, maybe not, but I cut my teeth on short sales too, and it was a wild west. I got my license 3 days before Bear Stearns collapsed. And so, yeah, I'm looking back on that and thinking about what you were saying, when you saw these people with like 200 or 300 short sale listings or REOs, you're like, man, I need to figure that piece of the business out because there was nothing else happening. But let me ask you, going backwards, just to rewind back to that, because for me personally, there were a couple foundational lessons. I think that in those early years, just how I did business, like the necessity of like raw entrepreneur, just I got to figure this out, right? Was something that carried forward, obviously through your success that you've created ongoing. But was there any, foundational lessons or on like with who you were able to help, how you were able to help, like, I don't know, that carried through in that early time? Because it was brutal out there, dude. You couldn't really sell real estate per se.
Yeah. So, I mean, when I jumped into it, I never thought about like, how do I get the next sale? It was like, how do I get a stream of sales? So I never thought about just like the mindset of just like, I'm going to sell Bob's home and then Bob's going to refer me to Sally and Sally's going to refer me to Sue. Like going from one to one to one, like, don't get me wrong, you can build a decent business doing that. Like there's plenty of people who are really successful working their sphere of influence and referrals. Like you can build a good business. Absolutely. But I try to think beyond that. And so I've always thought about how do I get streams of sales? Not one sale at a time. And so jumping in, it was like, who do I need the relationships with in this short sale game, in this REO game? Like who are the decision makers where if I can get a relationship with them, I'm not just going to get a sale, I'm going to get streams of sales. And so initially I just started going to the conferences because I was like, how do I get these relationships? Who were like, well, you got to go to these conferences. And at that point, it was the 5-star conference and
REO Mac.
Yeah. It was like, those are the conferences you need to go to. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go to those conferences. And then I go to the conference. I'm like, all right, who do I need to meet? And they're like, well, you need to meet the asset managers. So I was like, well, how do I meet them? people are like, well, I know the asset manager over here at this bank. And somebody else would be like, well, I know the asset manager over here. And it was crazy. It was like people were trading like baseball cards. It was like, well, I'll introduce you to this person. If you can introduce me to that person, it was like this whole game where like all you needed was like one relationship. But if you had one relationship, you could like trade that with all these other people and start building more relationships. So it was like the combination of trading relationships plus understanding like, how do I get in with these asset managers? And it was doing BPOs or broker price opinion. And if you would pay your dues, you could show them like, look, I'm willing to cut my teeth doing these BPOs and I'm effectively losing money every time I do one. But I'm willing to do these things for you because if I do, I'm showing you that I'm a team player and I'll do whatever it takes to get that relationship. So it's kind of the combination of like meeting people who would help me meet people and then going and paying my dues by doing these BPOs. And if you guys aren't familiar with a BPO, it's basically an appraisal done by a real estate agent. It takes like hours to do. You have to physically go visit a property, take photos, and they would pay you anywhere from $0 to $50 to do these things. So
I remember
a complete loss leader to do them, but it was a way that you could show, hey, Gary Vee talks about jab, 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 right hook, like give before you ask for something. Then that was actually long before his book. But now when you think about it, like that's what we were doing is jabbing by doing all these BPOs for them. You were helping them out. You were giving to them. And then it was only fair that you could ask like, hey, I've done 100 BPOs for you. Like maybe you throw me a listing. And then once you get a listing, you do a good job. They give you 2 listings and you do a good job. And before you know it, there were days I wake up and have 10 listings in my inbox. And that's the type of business I like to run is having 10 listings in my inbox when I wake up in the morning, not, hey, who's Sally going to refer me to today? So I always thought about like, how do I get that relationship that gives me a whole stream of sales?
You touch on a few like key things I want to highlight there. One is you've always been thinking beyond the sale that's right in front of you from the get-go. Your question was, how do I get a string of sales or a stream of sales? And I've watched you over the years carry that philosophy through. You took the REO thing. Then when Zillow came out with Zillow offers, you were one of the first people to position there. And the second principle is really delivering value, right? Before you're asking to get compensated or whatever. It was funny for me. One of the biggest entrepreneurial breakthroughs I had was a rooftop. I don't know, it was a dinner or after dinner drinks or something on a rooftop in San Diego. And one of my buddies was like, money's just a scoreboard for the value you bring. He's like, because I was hustling, like chasing money and I was doing good. But he's like, next level, man, if I'm telling you, he's like, don't chase money, add value. Just focus on the value. And if you really focus on the value, not the money, then it will literally exponentially expand. And that's kind of what happened. So that's awesome. The other one that you touched on there that I actually, in all my 15 years of real estate, this one was written on my whiteboard in my office. Somebody was in there obviously talking and I saw this and it hit me like, pow. I'm like, how did I never hear this? Like I see this the way it was, but it was real estate because you're like, these relationships open things up. Real estate's all about relationships until it's about real estate. And those relationships, if you show up, add value. So those are 2 things that you've leveraged really well. So 2010, you're crushing it in REO, or maybe not crushing it yet. You got the 10 by 10 office and now you expand and you got the 10 computers and you're like literally machete through the forest, hacking your way towards success. And because I think it was probably not too long after that where you and I crossed paths with it's somewhere in the world of Jay Kinder and Mike Reese. And what was it that created that next leap year for you? Was it a technology? Was it a philosophy? Was it a strategy for you coming out of there? Because I know you had some major success.
Yeah, so it was a combo of 2 things. One, I mentioned that we hired anybody and everybody. And when I realized that's not the way to do things, that was huge. Understanding the avatar, like who's the right fit for what we do. And at the same time, we had been using all these like piecemealed systems that were all kind of like hodgepodge put together. And we jumped into a platform called Boomtown, which was our website. It was the IDX search on the website. It was the CRM on the back end of the website. It was our lead generation system. It was kind of this all-in-one platform that really brought a whole bunch of different technologies together. And so it was like, I was realizing I have the wrong people. Like if this is the system I'm going to run, these aren't the people I'm going to run with. And so when I started to realize like,
so once you had Boomtown, which looking back on it at the time was like a Ferrari of technology for small to mid-sized real estate teams, you were like, man, I got this Ferrari thing, but I've got a bunch of like chumps like
I got people who are too old to have a driver's license. Like they could have a
That's
real estate.
interesting.
I had people who were so old they could have a real estate license, but they couldn't have a driver's license.
That's interesting. So got it. So the technology exposed the fact like you have this high powered resource in the form of technology that you knew you could take things to the next level with, but then you're like, crap, I don't have the right people here.
Exactly.
Been there.
So yeah, you could give people, like Gary Vee talks about, like a basketball, right? Like the value of a basketball to me is very little. It's probably the $50 the basketball costs, but to LeBron James, it's worth billions of dollars. Same thing, like you could have the best platform in the world, but if you don't know what to do with it, it's worthless to you. Same principle. So by getting the right people and really understanding the platform, because I hear people all the time, oh, my CRM sucks, but like, does it suck or do you suck? Like, have you actually taken the time to like fully understand your system? Have you taken all of the trainings? Have you asked the questions? Do you get on the weekly Q&As and webinars that they, oh, you didn't even know they do those? Yeah, pretty much every CRM, every IDX platform out there, they all have like regular webinars. Like, are you actually getting on those and asking questions to understand this? Or do you just expect you're going to hit a button and the machine's going to do all the work for you? So it was like, when I really dove in and understood Boomtown inside and out, and I asked the questions, I went to their conferences, I joined their groups, right? Like I really dove in, I fully understood that system. Like that's crucial. I think a lot of people make a mistake and they always want to blame the system for something when in reality, they should blame themselves because they haven't actually dove in to fully understand the system. They don't understand what they have at their fingertips.
So what you're talking about there is really like this principle of mastery, or like really pounding on your craft, getting good at what you do, leading with curiosity, and yeah, wanting to be the best you can in a particular area. That path to mastery is often accelerated by a mentor. Was there a mentor in your life or in your world at that time that was really core for you in the real estate side? Was there a coach or anybody, or was it just masterminds? Like, because I remember meeting you similar in that time of peers. It was peer to peer. And there wasn't like a guy or gal who was like.
So I coached under Tom Ferry at the time. And so there was the influence from Tom Ferry himself, as well as the community within his ecosystem. I think it's the combination of the two of those put together is really where it hits. Because to me, the coaches are good to give you some motivation, some accountability. But ultimately, I learned more from my peers that are actually boots on the ground using these systems, right? Like, because no disrespect to him or any other coach, like if they're not sitting in the living room, right? Giving the listing presentation, they're not in the car driving the buyer around. Like they can only go so far with their knowledge. So to be able to collaborate with the other people who are actually out there in the field doing those things, I think you need a little bit of both.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, so 2000, so Boomtown is like, becomes the thing for you, 2011, 12, 13. Was there another, like, what was the next leap year for you?
So that year we leaped 82 to 242 in transaction count. So it was almost right around 3x in transaction count.
In a year.
People, right platform in 1 year. Yeah, that was huge.
Right people, right platform. Back to the right people. At that time, what was your ideal agent avatar, if you will? And is that similar to what it is today, or has it changed significantly?
I would say there's been some change. I needed tech savvy. Like that was the most important thing, is I needed somebody who was very tech savvy at that time. Now we do so much for the agents. They don't have to know as much as our agents did back then. So back then I needed people who were young, hungry, and tech savvy. Like that was the right avatar. And again, not that an agent who's 100 years old can't be successful. The neighborhood where I'm going to go hang out tonight, the number one agent there, he still has a pager. Like Dennis has a pager. Like I don't even know you could have Certipus on a pager. Like he's old school, man. He still uses like carbon copy contracts. Like I don't know, where do you get those? I don't know. So it's not that somebody who's older can't be successful. It just wasn't the right fit for what we were doing. And understanding the right fit.
Understanding the right fit is key. So before it was young, hungry, tech savvy. What is it for Whissel Group today? Taking a quick break here on The Real Experts, this podcast is all about mastering the mindsets, strategies, and tactics essential for becoming the best version of yourself, both personally and professionally. If what you've heard today inspired you, don't just make this a one-off, make it a habit. Hit that subscribe button now to join this community and stay inspired. We've got an epic lineup of future guests coming your way that you won't want to miss.
So now it's just everybody, they got to understand what our core values are and they have to live them. So I think a lot of people make mistakes with core values. One of the mistakes I made at one point, I sat with all my agents and we came up with core values together. Like, F that. Like, I think there's maybe 2 agents that are still a part of my company who are in that room. Why should I allow them to come up with the core values like that? I think that's backwards. I think a lot of people screw that up. Like, it's my company. Like, I'm going to come up with the core values for my company and who's going to fit it. I'm not going to let other people come up with the core values for my company. I think that's crazy. But we came up with our core values. We run a system called EOS, or the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And the exercise we went through when coming up with our core values in EOS was, they said, think of the 3 agents on your team today that if you could clone them, you would clone them to infinity. Who are those 3 agents? And so we figured out who those 3 agents were on the team. And then it was, okay, what are the qualities, the values of those people that would make you want to clone them over and over and over again? What is it about them? And that was when it really clicked. So it was like, oh, well, what I love about Matt is that he's got all this military experience and he shares all these things about what it was like to be in the military, so we can do a better job helping our military clients out. We're in San Diego, so we have a lot of them. And it was like, so boom, that was where experience and share came from. And then it was, JC, and it was, what were the things about JC and that we really loved about him? And it was his come from contribution attitude. Like, he's such a family guy and a church guy and a community guy, and he's constantly coming from contribution, has like such an amazing heart and just a big contributor, and also contributes to the team. And so that was how we came up with the core values, because we realized that the core values already existed within the company, and it just helped us identify what they were, but we chose those core values. And so that was a really, really cool exercise.
What year did you flip that, where you were like, oh, before we were like, hey guys, what do we want to be about, versus, hey, who is the best of our best that, like, it has to, like you said, I love that question. Who, if you, the 2 or 3 people in your company, if you could clone them, you would to infinity. Because that, when we talk about core, there's 2 types of core values. There's aspirational and embodied. Aspirational is what we hope to be, but embodied is what you really, really are, right? And so, that process sounds like you guys got clear on it. And then by getting clear on it, you could amplify that vibe, if you will.
Absolutely. So yeah, we hire to them. We give raises to them. We fire to them. They're not just things we put up on the wall, that you walk by. Like, every single meeting, we lead the meeting. Like, we just had our team meeting today. We lead the meeting by doing core value shout outs. Like, we will not go to the content of the meeting until we get at least 3 core value shout outs. We have a core value shout out channel in Slack that's getting lit up multiple times per day, acknowledging people for core values. We do quarterly core value standouts. So when we do our quarterly meeting, our all hands meeting with the company, we acknowledge the people that are not just upholding the core values, but are like really standing out amongst everybody. And then we do, at our annual awards ceremony, we have the whole company vote on the core value winners. And we not only say who they want to be, like who it is, but why. And that's the coolest part, is when it's like, all right, we want Shannon to win the core value for with positivity. And here's what people had to say about Shannon. And we'll read off like 3 or 4 of the things people said about Shannon. I mean, it's really freaking cool. So that's my favorite. And we actually make, what's funny, our award ceremony, we do our agent, the production awards first, and then we do the admin awards, and then the core values. So it's the inverse of what you would think. You think you finish like the big award, whoever sold the most homes. We get that out of the way early. And we actually spend way more time on the admins, because they don't get the recognition all the time that the agents get. And a lot of times the admins are the ones winning the core value awards too. So we focus more on the admin and core value awards than we do on the production awards, because the production awards, they're getting acknowledged every day.
Yeah. And the reality is, man, I mean, at least what I found is, if you create an awesome environment and an awesome platform and an awesome company for people to really find their fullest potential in real estate, they're standing on the shoulder of giants, dude. Like, people who are, their success is on the back of others. And I really love what you've done there by kind of flipping that. That's awesome. So that's really been, that's a huge factor. And I think one of the things we'll probably talk about later is just that what are, or maybe we can pivot to it now. So that next leg of the journey, you got super clear on core values, and then that led to kind of your next leap year, if you will. Okay. And then
the next big thing, and it's started last year, but now we're seeing the results this year, and we're going to see absurd results next year, is the analogy I come up with is like my wife did hair for a long time, and she would always talk about this, like, oh, I need to chop some of my hair off so it can grow longer. And I was like, huh? Like, how does that make sense? She's like, well, your hair only grows to like a certain length, and then it really slows down. And if you want it to grow further, like you cut an inch off and it grows 2 inches. It's a weird thing, right? Like you and I, we're just trying to hold on to what hair we have left, right? Like they were like, well, they're like, I'm going to cut an inch off because I want it to grow. I'm like, don't cut any off. I hardly have any left. Like I want to save it. But we kind of took that same philosophy to our team is if we're not cutting the bottom off, we're going to stunt our growth. And so we've really put a heavy emphasis on upholding the expectations that we have of our agents, because right, the saying is like expectations without enforcement are simply suggestion. And I think there's way too many people out there that just have a whole lot of suggestions on their team. They don't actually have true expectations. You can call them whatever you want, but if you're not enforcing them, they're just suggestions.
Well, and it's hard to run a business, build a business, and certainly create success just on a bunch of suggestions, as opposed to standards. I mean, I know I was a big, still pretty much am a fan of Tony Robbins' work, and that he said, you want to change your life, like raise your standards, and standards aren't suggestions. So let's unpack that a little bit. So this is something that I think really certainly team leaders struggle with. I mean, in the individual level, you can't really achieve success until you can have self accountability. And standards are really right, an accountability to what you say you're going to do, believe you're going to do, what you're committed to X number of whatever activity or results. But I think this is a challenge for team leaders, right? Because when they get into the business of growing a team, at the beginning, people hire by proximity often. They're like, hey, man, I got some extra leads. Come on over. and like without any clarity on the avatar, like you talked about. And when it comes to like, hey, telling people what they need to do or should do, they get too friendly about it, and they have kind of a family tribe element. And I see a lot of real estate teams kind of flounder in that zone because they don't, they have ideas about what they should be doing or want to do, but they're either not clearly communicated or you're saying not reinforced.
Yeah.
The challenge there is you got to decide as a team leader, what kind of culture do you want? Do you want a hard culture or a soft culture? Are you going to manage to standards where like, hey, dude, if you don't do X amount of prospecting per week or X amount of open houses per month, you're off the freaking team? Or is it, this is what we suggest, and if you're hitting your goals, well, like, whether you do 6 open houses a month or 1, I'm not going to be on your case because you're closing 2 deals a month. So where does that land for Whissel Group? Like, do you guys lean 100% hardcore on standards? Or is it we lean hard on the standards indexed against, if you're crushing your goals, I'm not on your back.
Yeah, it's an A for us. So okay. We have the expectations that we enforce hardcore and we don't play around. And if you miss the expectations, which we have activity expectations, kind of like you mentioned, open houses, showing up to meetings, role plays, things like that. There's those expectations. And if you don't hit them, you'll get put on probation. If you don't hit them again, you're going to get fired. And that's just the way that it works. But what we did to accommodate the producers is we broke our team into quartiles based on how many homes they sell in the last 90 days. And so the more homes you sell, you move up the quartiles. So we have bronze, silver, gold, platinum. When you are in the bronze quartile, your expectations are a lot heavier. Whereas as you move up the ladder and you get into the platinum quartile, your expectations are a lot lighter. So my agents who are out there selling 4 or 5 homes a month, dude, just show up to a meeting once a month, show up to a role play once a month, we're good. Whereas the agent who's in my lowest quartile, who's, selling less than a home a month, you better get your ass on the role play every time. You better do your open house. You better do all the things. So it's an and where it's enforced regardless, but we've lightened the load a lot on the producers. And it's a heavy load on the non-producer. So it's both.
Okay. I love that the way that you've kind of set that up. So if you're producing a ton of results, like my expectations of your activity level is much less than if you are not producing results. And my expectations or standards, if you will, around your activity level is very high, and I'm going to be on you about it. That's what a saying my sister has. My sister's 10 years older than me. She's kind of like a mom grown up. She's like, look, I got your back, but I'm on your back. And that was it, And it's like, if
Yeah.
you're doing your stuff, then I'm not on your back, which is
Yeah.
effectively.
People get worried these are going to be like really hard conversations. But the thing is, when they're onboarded, we go over the expectations, right? And then even like in the interview, I should say, we go over the expectations. In onboarding, we go over the expectations. If they start to flirt with missing expectations, we're having a conversation with them. If they miss them, then they're getting put on a formal probation. And then what ends up happening is when they're facing getting fired, more often than not, they just quit. And it's like,
Yeah.
you can't fire me, I quit. It's like, oh, if that helps you sleep better at night, so I don't fire you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, Brett, good. More power to you. So that happens a lot. So there's no surprises. It's actually like people are so scared of this conversation. These are easy conversations because the expectations were clear from before you even joined this team. Right? Before you ever join the team, we make it abundantly clear what we're going to expect out of you. So there's no surprise when you're getting fired. You knew from before day one, before you took this opportunity, what was going to be the expectation, and you didn't uphold it. And it's not a hard conversation.
I love it, man. I mean, the reality is most people they come into real estate for two different reasons. One is people backdoor into real estate because they've tried their hand at everything else and couldn't make anything work. Or they come into real estate because they're like, they've had some success in another career and they're like, I want more freedom. But you and I both know that like accountability is freedom. And so you've created a great environment where people can find that, what is it? It's like not flexible accountability. It's like, I don't know, it's a calibrated accountability based on, how self-accountable they are. Okay, cool. I like it. So talk to us about how this looks and works in what is the Whissel Group today. How many agents do you guys have, and what does per agent productivity look like? Because I opened up this call by saying, we're excited to talk to you because we know it's good.
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to finish this year right around 110 agents on the team, and we'll finish in the high 800s for transactions. So on a per agent, PPA, I believe is the term, per agent activity, we'll finish around 8 closings per month per agent, where San Diego County, the average is less than 2 this year because transaction volume is so low. So you're going to...
And it's San Diego. Yes. We have low transaction volume in Northern California, but you guys got people who like to surf and hang out and just chill because that's San Diego.
We do, yes. So the average agent in San Diego will close less than 2 homes. We'll close over 8 on average, which is a huge number, especially for our size. To do that with 10 agents, that's cool. To do that with over 100 agents is really freaking hard. And that is with me not producing. That it's not like I'm out there selling 100 houses and then the team sells the rest. Like I think I maybe will close like 5 or 6 this year. And 2 of those are just because I wanted to do transactions in this post-settlement world just to feel it. And then the others are, either celebrity, VIP type clients or like family. Like outside of that, and I even referred my family this year.
Okay. That's awesome, man. So, and with those 110 agents, is that all 100% pure team structure where
I would say it's like 90%. We have a few agents who are on what we call our indie model, where they basically have all the benefits that we offer at Whissel, but they don't want the accountability or the leads. So they self-generate all of their business and they don't want us on their ass, and I'm cool with it. But those are our experienced agents. You can't join my indie model as a rookie. Like it's not for that. Most of the people that are on our indie model were on our team, and then they're just in a different phase of life where they don't need the leads anymore and they don't want us on their ass for the accountability, but they see the value in the brand and all the tools and everything that we provide to them. So they still stay a part of Whissel, but we just don't generate leads for them.
Got it. And what percentage of your agents do listings and buys, or the more traditional team where both? Everybody does
everything. Yeah. My mindset, and obviously there's a lot of different mindsets, is if all you do is one thing, I feel like you put blinders on and you don't see these opportunities all around you. You're so focused on what's in front of you, which is the next buyer, the next buyer, the next buyer. And you're missing the fact that this buyer also is a seller, or all these other opportunities. So I like to keep my agents open to all of those opportunities.
Yeah.
So that's my mindset.
Okay. No, I here's what I found in California in a high price market is that the skill level in $1 million plus market of the average agent required that's going to get belly to belly with someone. If someone's buying $1 million home, they're pretty successful. They're pretty smart. What I found early on when I was hiring brand new agents, it was hard because the expectations of the customer, the client, was that the guy or gal sitting across the table from me was just as smart in real estate as they were as a software engineer in tech. Like that was the implied, and it was hard. So then I'm like, okay, well, I need some agents with a little bit of experience. And those guys or gals, once they could get to the point where they're closing a couple buyers a month in a competitive market, they're certainly smart enough to do listings, And so I'm with you on that. Curiously, like out of the eight out of you, what's the mix of buyers to sellers for your business?
As of our closings right now, this is actually a really good mix. 250 listings sold, 450 buyers sold. We're right at like 700 closed. So mathematically, let me just we're 36% seller and 64% buyer.
Yeah, that's pretty similar to where we are as a kind of
Slightly
what?
or 2/3.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then what percentage of the business that the agents do you and the Whissel Group and your marketing team generate, do you think?
I don't know that off the top of my head, but I'd venture to guess close to 50-50.
Okay, about 50%. So you guys do still generate a lot of leads. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we're the biggest flex team in San Diego. So we have a big relationship with Zillow, with Realty.com, with HomeLight. Like, again, I'm all about these relationships that bring a lot of opportunities to the table.
Nice. Cool. As we wrap it up, like we've got a variety of listeners. Most of our listeners are been in the business a while, but are pretty successful. But bringing it back to mindset, because you've gone on that journey from being a solo agent to like a team leader to now I'll call it like an empire builder in real estate. What do you think are like one or two core mindsets for that guy or gal that's 1 to 3 years in the business, trying to break into that 15 to 25 transaction realm? Like are core things that they need to get right between their ears when they're in that first early climb, we'll call it.
Yeah, the biggest thing is you got to have a system that you operate your business on. And then what I've realized is like, nobody taught me how to run a business in high school. Nobody taught me how to run a business in college. Nobody taught me how to run a business in real estate school. And none of these coaches teach you how to run a business. The coaches are the worst, right? Because all they have to do is sell coaching. So they're just telling you about the new app, the new widget, the new lead source, the new. Nobody needs anything freaking new. Like now that I'm not in any of those coaching worlds, I haven't been for the last few years, my business has grown substantially more because I have less distractions. I stopped the shiny object syndrome and I actually focused on building a real freaking business. And we put the EOS operating system in place. Again, EOS Entrepreneurial Operating System. Read the book Traction if you want to learn more about it. That's where all my focus has been the last few years, is on actually running a true business and having a system in place to run it. That is what's the big part of how we've had all this growth is I'm not coming back to my team like, oh, I was just at this 5-day event and here's the 600 new things we're going to do. Like we don't implement anything new. Nobody needs anything new. They just need to implement all the things they already learned at the last 600 freaking conferences they went to. So it's like blocking and tackling in football is how you win championships. Like it's very simple. Just block and tackle and you win football games. You don't need, right? You don't see the freaking Chiefs out there running flea flickers and triple reverses and all this crazy shit. Like they just block and tackle, right? They just focus on the fundamentals and do them better than anybody. They don't need all this new fan. I mean, hell, look at their team last year. They didn't even have any like razzle dazzle wide receivers or anything crazy. Like they just work, man. And that's all everybody needs. They don't need new shit. Like stop going to all the conferences. Stop watching like all the crap. Like just take the things you already have. And then EOS teaches you how to take the maybe 3 things that you need to implement this quarter and how to build around implementing those 3 things and block all the other shit out, focus on those 3 things, and then make sure you nail those 3 things and you fully integrate them into your business. You think about how does it connect to this and that, and what about this, what about that? And then next quarter, you could do 3 more things, and the next quarter, 3 more. And a year from now you have 12 new systems in place that are all well thought out, fully integrated seamlessly into your business, and your business is growing, as opposed to you coming back with 60 new ideas every time you come back.
You just described like my first probably I think I started going to conferences like my second year of real estate, like years 2 through 5 or 2 through 6. And I remember coming back, I would have my yellow pad, dude, like you're talking about, come from a Tom Ferry conference, and Tom's great, but it's a fire hose of ideas. And you'd have a yellow pad with 200 ideas on it and come to my assistant and be like, let's go. And after she would have PTSD for me coming back from conferences.
Yep.
And it wasn't until, I think what you're describing there for me personally was the main mindset shift I had to have as a team leader.
Okay.
Because as a solo agent, I could go grab the next like great listing lead generation tactic or how to capture a few more buyers at an open house. Like that was the blocking and tackling. Basic lead gen, lead conversion was what I mastered at that ground level. What you're talking about is like learning to think strategically, but like don't try to do everything at once.
Yep.
Like success isn't just about doing the right things. It's like doing the right things in the right order. Let's like, yeah. That was definitely huge in being able to build a team. How about now, like, you through your fast forward movement, you influence tens of thousands of agents now. What inspires you? What do you think leads you or will lead you to that next level of impact or success for where you are now?
The big thing now is I can't do everything alone. I can only do so much. And I'm somebody who's really, really committed to my family. Like I'm a 4-day work week. I'm home by 6:00 on those 4 days that I do work. I don't work Friday, Saturday, Sunday. When I say don't work, like you could ask my wife, I maybe take a call once a week on a Friday, Saturday, or something, like one call on those 3 days. Like I'm checked the heck out. So for me, right, you could work, 24 hours a day and I could start 10 other businesses, but now I'm just in the mindset of finding partners that I can take just me being a visionary, which is what I truly love and really enjoy, and finding the right partners in various different businesses and just taking my vision and allowing them to operate these different businesses. So like we launched a flipping company. Now we have a development company. We're doing these various different businesses. So finding the right partners that can take my vision, and I don't need to own 100% of everything, right? When I was small, like it was my thing, my baby, I wanted all of it. I don't need to own 100% of everything I'm involved in. So just being able to be a visionary and do what I'm best at, and outside of that, get out of the way and let the team do their thing. So finding the right partners to run the various different businesses that I'm involved in is really where I'm the most focused right now, because now I can multiply myself, not only across working with hundreds of buyers and sellers in the real estate business, but now across building, apartment buildings, across renovating homes and doing all these other things. Now I can multiply in a much bigger way by having various businesses with partners.
Love it, man. Love it. Well, that's so powerful wherever you are in your journey. If you're in that early climb, like master the fundamentals like Kyle talked about, get the blocking and tackling down, lead generation, lead conversion. If you're starting to be a team, get an operating system for your business. Check out EOS if you're really trying to create a real company. And if you're at the umpire level, the power of partnership and finding the right who. Awesome, man. Well, I know we'll continue to watch you do big things. If people want to stay connected to you, go deeper on any of the things that we talked about, how would they find out, follow, stay connected?
For sure. So follow me on Instagram and keep it very simple at Kyle Whissel. Also, we have a website, thewhisselway.com. So you can subscribe to the YouTube channel and podcast on there. We have a private Facebook group and email newsletter. We share a lot of tips and tricks. And then I'm huge on content creation, audio, video, social, podcasts, all that stuff. So we teach a course on there as well. So if you really want to level up your content creation, I've had a full-time content creator on my team for almost 10 years now. So share the whole journey of everything I've learned over the last 10 years of really crushing it with content, bundle it up in a nice little package. So all that stuff's at thewhisselway.com.
The Whissel Way. Awesome, Kyle. Thanks for taking time out of your day to share with us. And as we always say, don't just be an agent, be the expert. Have a great one. That's a wrap for today's episode of The Real Experts. If you like what you heard, take a moment and leave us a review and subscribe to join this incredible community of changemakers. Better yet, share this podcast with a friend or fellow agent who you know could benefit from these insights. If you'd like to learn more about our one-on-one or group coaching, check out our website at www.bearealexpert.com. We'll be back next week with more expert advice, so stay tuned. Until next week, don't just be an agent, be the expert.